In this lecture, we are going to cover the basics of data. First, we will create a data model, then create a local data file that will store all of the information about the fruits in this encyclopedia app. Second, we will learn how to integrate and fetch this data as well. By the end of this class, we will display different fruits in the onboarding screen and make it more interesting. Alright, without further ado, let's launch Xcode and start coding, shall we? Our first task is to create a data model for all of the fruits. This data model is basically a blueprint that describes all kinds of information about the type of the properties that need to be represented. Having said that, right-click or control-click on the main project name on the project navigator. After that, let's create a new group folder for this data model as I show you. Give it the name Model. And let's create a new file for it. Select the Swift file from the available templates and name it to Fruit Model. Make sure that the destination is still the recently created model folder, then click on the Create button. Xcode will open this file immediately. Now, replace the default foundation framework with the SwiftUI as I show you. Then, enter a short but yet informative comment about this model. New comment, mark, fruits data model. Super, that's enough. Now, the next major task is to create the actual data model with all of the necessary information about the fruits in it. For this model, we are going to create a well-designed new struct. Enter the following code. Struct fruit identifiable var id equals UUID, which is an universally unique identifier. Var title string var headline string var image string var gradient colors array of color var description string var nutrition array of string. Pay attention to the ID variable in this model. This UUID method will generate a random universally unique identifier for each fruit item in the encyclopedia app. With this unique ID value, we can differentiate each fruit from the other fruits when we are displaying the fetched data from the local data file. After this ID variable, we created a title, a headline, a file name of the image, and the description variables for the fruit. All of these variables are string types. Next, we created a variable for the gradient colors. It will hold not string values but actual color values. Each fruit has got a light and a dark color, and we are going to use them to create an impressive linear gradient for the background here and there in the application. Lastly, we also declared another array for all of the different nutritional values for each fruit, such as energy, sugar, fat, protein, vitamins, and finally, minerals. And that's all. We have just managed to create a complete data blueprint for the fruit data. Next, you will learn how to create a local data file that will store the actual data for all of the fruits in this encyclopedia app. Data. Okie dokie, let's create our first local data file. First, right-click or control-click on the main project name on the project navigator. After that, let's create a new group folder for this data file. Give it the name Data. And let's create a new Swift file for it. Yet again, select the Swift file from the available templates and name it to Fruit Data. Make sure that the destination is still the recently created data folder, then click on the Create button. Xcode will open this file immediately. It was super easy so far, isn't it? Now replace the default foundation framework with the SwiftUI as I tend to do nowadays. Then enter a short but yet informative comment about this file. New comment, mark, fruits data. Now I am going to show you how to create a static local variable that stores all of the necessary information about the fruits. First, let's create an empty constant that stores an array of fruit type. Enter the following code. Let fruits data array of fruit equals open brackets, closing brackets. So far, so good. Now we are going to use Xcode's built-in auto-completion feature. First, navigate the cursor inside the empty fruit data as I show you. Next, start typing fruit and wait for a sec until Xcode auto-completion shows up with the selection of the available options. Now, since the random ID of the fruit is auto-generated by the UUID method, therefore we should select the second option without this ID as I show you. Press the Enter on this particular option and Xcode will automatically provide us the necessary code snippet with many placeholders inside it. These placeholders will give us precise instructions about the value type that we must enter there. We are going to fill out only the first entry for practicing purposes. Just follow me by entering some real values for the first fruit. Title, blueberry. Then, headline, blueberries are sweet, nutritious, and widely popular fruit all over the world. Next, image, blueberry. Next, gradient colors, color blueberry light, comma, color blueberry dark. Next, description, blueberries are perennial flowering plants with blue or purple berries. And finally, nutrition, 240 kilojoule, 9.96 gram, 0.33 gram, 0.74 gram, A, B1, calcium, magnesium. And congratulations! You have just entered a real data for the encyclopedia. Awesome job! Now, if you want to add another entry to this array, then you only need to add a comma to the end of the first entry and start typing fruit again as I show you. But hey, don't worry, we are not going to type all of the rest data. Instead of this tedious work, we are going to copy and paste all of the data from the previously prepared resources file. Data file. Having said that, navigate to the desktop and open the resources folder. In there, you will find another folder called Data. Open this folder as well. Now, let's open the fruits data text file with the default text editor by double-clicking on the file name. Next, select all of the content by Command+A keyboard shortcut and copy it to the clipboard by Command+C shortcut. Alright, after that navigate back to the fruits data file and replace the previously manually entered content with the content from the clipboard by pressing the Command+V shortcut as I show you. Easy peasy, isn't it? I thought so. And here it goes, all information about each fruit in a nice data file. It's quite a long file, to be honest, but we are done with dealing with it. Now it's time for using it for fun. Data integration. Now open the onboarding view file. Before we start the data integration into the fruit card view, we need to make a small prep work. We are going to comment out the fruit card view in this file and replace it with a temporary text view as I show you. Text, cards. Great, the preview window updated and the fruit card view is no longer connected to this onboarding view. The reasoning behind it is that first and foremost, we want to make the data integration to work properly in the fruit card view before we start fetching the local data onto this onboarding view. Okay, now open the fruit card view first time in this lecture. In this file, our very first task is to create a new variable that will be a representation of the previously declared fruit model. Enter the following code. var fruit, type of fruit. This fruit variable is a type of the fruit model without any initial value. As you can notice on the toolbar, there is an error and the compiler stopped working immediately. Since this fruit variable isn't initialized yet with any value, therefore it will break the preview immediately because it doesn't know what to do with this property that has no value. It's quite understandable, isn't it? Don't panic, just scroll down to the end of the code. The built-in error handling feature gives us a tip on how we can fix this error. Now click on the red pin at the start of the error message as I show you. See, there is a missing argument for the fruit property that the preview unsuccessfully tries to call and display on the canvas. To handle this error, click on the Fix button at the bottom right corner. Nice job! As you can notice, Xcode put the missing fruit property inside the view, and now we just need to tell the source of the data that the preview can use for displaying some information for us. To make the data integration more visible and have some fun, let's add references to the second fruit in the data store. Shall we? Enter. Fruit card view, fruit, fruits data, 1. Since the blueberry got the 0 index, therefore the second fruit has the first index. If you resume the preview, you will notice that the error is dismissed. Yet the fruit didn't change to a new one. It's because we are still using the manually entered information for the different elements inside the card. Let's integrate the model into this and connect it to the UI elements. We start from top to bottom, alright? First, navigate to the image view and replace the static content with the dynamic one as I show you. Enter. Image, fruit, image. Whoa! Did you see what's happened? I call it a radical change. Who does like strawberry after blueberry? Now let's continue with its title. Shall we? The process is the same. We are going to replace its static content with the dynamic one. Enter. Text, fruit, title. See, the content in the preview is updated immediately. Some folks call it magic, but it's pure engineering in reality. No need to sugarcoat it. It's programming. I am sure you know the drill. The next one is the headline. Enter. Text, fruit, headline. Fantastic! We are done with updating the image, the title, and the headline. It wasn't particularly hard task, was it? The final UI element in this card that we need to update is the colors of the linear gradient. Now watch me carefully because it's quite different than the individual elements before. Since it's an array of colors, therefore we don't need to add each color separately to this gradient view. Of course we could do that as well, but there is a better and shorter way. First, delete the two colors, including the square brackets of the colors arrays as I show you. Second, simply enter the new array referencing the data model. Gradient, colors. Fruit, gradient colors. And that's all. This new background makes such difference in the card's design. Amazing! It couldn't be easier if you know how it works in Swift. That's why I love this programming language so much. What about the other fruits in our local data file? Wouldn't it be nice if we can see them in the preview? Let's do it. Navigate to the end of the file and let's modify the index of the fruit. You can play with it as long as you wish. I hope that you enjoy building applications with SwiftUI as much as I do. It's so much fun playing with it, but enough with this small talk and let's get back to work, shall we? After all of this nice work, finally we can fetch the data into the onboarding screen and finish up this lecture for now. Fetching data. First, open the onboarding view file and let's create a new property. Enter the following code at the top of this file. var fruits array of fruit equals fruits data. With this code, we not only created a new property for the fruits that we want to display on the onboarding screen, but this time we initialized it with the fruits data as well. The onboarding view will know exactly where the source of the data comes from. Now, we only need to do is to tell the loop to fetch this data from the local data file. To do this, let's modify the for each loop as I show you. Enter. For each fruits from 0 to 5. With this code, we will display only the first 6 fruits from the data file. It's quite an arbitrary number. Usually, we don't display more than 4 or 5 cards on a typical onboarding screen. But back to work, now we can finally delete the placeholder text inside this loop and call the fruit card view once again. Of course, we will get a new error message from Xcode. As you can read, we must provide some data inside this view and tell it which fruit to show by referencing with an index. We will pass to it a number from 0 to 5 and the card view will understand that we want to display the first 6 fruits in line from the local data file. And just one more thing before we wrap up this lecture. Navigate to the preview and let's pass the missing property with the necessary data to it as well. Enter. Onboarding view. Fruits data. Alright, it's time to resume the automatic preview on the canvas. By doing it, the preview updates itself, but now with the different fruit cards. Okay, for now we can only see the first card. But when we start the live preview by clicking on the play button, then the built-in simulator will start and we can see all cards in there. It's quite impressive, isn't it? Testing. As usual, it's time to test this application in the simulator or on a real test device. Let's build and run the Fructus project. Of course, testing on the iPhone is much better than anything else in my opinion. Shortly after the app is launched, we can test how the onboarding screen is working with displaying all of the cards inside its page tab view. What do you think about it? I hope that you enjoyed developing it. In the next lecture, we will add more functionality, so when a user taps on the Start button, it will exit the onboarding and enter the next screen. Until then, happy coding and see you at the class!